supercar killer. Others shouted that it was an upstart without pedigree that dared to challenge the elite supercars. Many declared it a breakthrough for the Japanese automotive industry, while some argued that its merits were overrated. At Nissan, they didn't take offense at these remarks. They were waiting for their moment, and that moment has come. Welcome to Iconic Cars History, and let's find out if the Nissan GTR was truly as good as they say. Before I tell you about the modern GTRs, I would like to briefly touch on the history of the model. And yes, folks, I will pronounce it as GTR, as the abbreviation stands for, and is pronounced as Gran Turismo Racing. So let's begin. It all started with the Skyline model. Back in 1969, Nissan released a sports version of the Skyline with the GTR badge. At that time, GTRs were dominating the racing tracks in Japan, leaving all competitors in the dust. As time passed, the Skyline GTR, generation after generation, earned its place in the world of motorsport, venturing beyond the Japanese islands to test its mettle on the racetracks of Australia, Europe, and America. The true golden era for the Skyline GTR began with the release of the R32 model in 1989. Famously nicknamed Godzilla outside of Japan, it deserved this moniker for good reason. For its time, the GTR R32's design was revolutionary. The all-wheel drive system in the now iconic RB26 DET engine with twin turbos had such tuning potential that even the supercars of that era could be envious. For 5 consecutive years, the Skyline GTR was the champion of Japanese touring car racing. In its racing modification, this engine developed 600 horsepower. Japanese tuners went even further, extracting over 1,000 horsepower from its 2.6-liter engine, all on an all-wheel drive system. Imagine the acceleration from a standstill for this beast. And remember, this was the early 1990s. The all-wheel drive system and the, dare I say, masterpiece of an engine, the RB26 DET, were carried over to the next generations of the Skyline GTR in the R33 and R34 chassis. At that time, there were very few cars in the world that could rival the Skyline in terms of tuning potential. However, there was one caveat. In Japan of those years, there was an unofficial gentleman's agreement among automakers that prevented them from releasing cars with more than 280 horsepower. The daring Japanese enthusiasts, of course, disregarded these limitations, and immediately after purchasing a new Skyline GTR, would drive it to a tuning shop, which could be located just across the street from the dealership. Depending on the owner's budget, the engine's power could be boosted to unreal figures, up to 1,300 horsepower. You all probably remember Paul Walker's Nissan Skyline GTR R34 from the movie Fast and Furious 2, which had incredible performance characteristics. Knowing the tuning potential of this car, these incredible characteristics are quite believable. But all good things come to an end. In 2002, the last true Skyline GTR R34 rolled off the production line in Japan. Why the last? Because the next generation of the Skyline came with naturally aspirated engines and a design that was entirely different from the classic iconic models. All-wheel drive was offered only for the sedan, a car that was unsuitable for extensive tuning. Japanese tuning shops completely ignored this model, preferring to work with the GTRs in the R32, R33, and R34 versions. For 5 years in the strictest secrecy, showing only concept cars far from reality, Nissan worked on their new revolutionary vehicle. In 2007, the presentation of an entirely new model took place. It became clear that Nissan intended to challenge the most renowned and fastest supercars of the time. The new car was renamed from Skyline GTR to simply GTR. This marked the beginning of a new era for the GTR. At the start of the presentation, Nissan immediately showed their trump cards. A recorded lap time at the Nürburgring of 7 minutes and 38 seconds, and a year later, a record-breaking 7 minutes and 26 seconds. For many, these numbers were shocking, as with such a time, the GTR outperformed many famous supercars, such as the Koenigsegg, Lamborghini Murcielago, Ferrari F40 Scuderia, Pagani Zonda F, Mercedes-Benz SLR GT, and even the renowned Porsche 911 Turbo, which had been dubbed the supercar killer. This fact significantly stirred the global automotive community. The 911 Turbo, with its colossal list of victories on racing tracks, had always been considered one of the fastest supercars in the world. Its rear-engine layout and chassis characteristics were ideally suited to the contours of the famous Nürburgring track. Nissan especially wanted to outdo Porsche. Throughout motorsport history, Nissan had only managed to beat a Porsche on the racetrack once, in the distant 1966 when the Nissan R380 defeated the Porsche Carrera 6 in a Japanese race. Except for this instance, in official competitions, Porsche cars were always faster. Thus, for Nissan, a victory over Porsche was of immense significance. The time recorded by the GTR at the Nürburgring was so incredible that Porsche decided to verify it. The Germans took a completely standard GTR, brought it to the Nürburgring, and tested it alongside their own cars, the 911 Turbo and GT2. The GTR lagged behind the 911 Turbo by 16 seconds per lap, and Porsche accused Nissan's management of deception. The Germans claimed that the GTR in the record run was not standard, or that Nissan had used racing semi-slick tires instead of standard ones to achieve a fast lap. Nissan, of course, denied such accusations. The Japanese stated that the car was completely standard, except that on the day of the record, they used Dunlop tires, while the GTR used by Porsche had Bridgestones, the ones installed on the car when sold at dealerships. However, both were regular road tires, nothing extraordinary. The letter also subtly hinted that such a difference in results was due to the insufficient qualification of Porsche's testers. The Germans never managed to prove any foul play. Since then, a bloodless war for seconds on the racetracks has been waged between the two automakers. Who ultimately won, you might ask? Well, folks, that requires a separate video with analysis, studying the facts, and comparing independent tests from various print media and TV shows. Let us know if you want such a video, but for now, we move on. That first GTR had 480 horsepower and accelerated to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.7 seconds. Now, the latest evolution of this supercar develops 570 horsepower with an advertised 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 2.8 seconds. Unfortunately, I couldn't find test results of a stock GTR achieving this time, except for the official video from Nissan. The fastest time recorded by a standard GTR is 3.1 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour, which is still a very impressive result. The engine is a particular point of pride for Nissan. Only 4 people in the world have the right to assemble it from more than 370 parts and put their name on it. Each engine, assembled under conditions of absolute sterility, takes up to 6 hours to complete. But the Japanese have an even stronger argument in the competition. The Nissan GTR Nismo. With 600 horsepower and an acceleration to 100 kilometers per hour in, as the manufacturer claims, 2.4 seconds, it is almost a track-ready version of the already incredibly fast car from Nissan's in-house tuning division, Nissan Motorsport. The Nismo modification differs from the regular GTR with its retuned suspension, carbon fiber body parts, and specially developed Dunlop tires made specifically for the GTR Nismo. Isn't this the GTR that set the Nürburgring record in 2013 and was long considered the fastest production car in the world? No, folks. That record was set by a very unique Nissan GTR Nismo with the special N-Attack package. Here it is, the fastest production GTR on the planet. The N-Attack package turns the GTR Nismo into an extreme racing machine. The engine power remained unchanged at 600 horsepower, but everything else was modified. So, what was changed? The modifications include a self-locking front differential, a limited-slip rear differential, a modified intercooler, a different titanium exhaust system, a specially tuned engine management and traction control system, and an expanded aerodynamic kit that includes a hood, side skirts, bumpers, and a rear wing. The springs and shock absorbers were completely replaced, and the main change is the specially designed racing slick tires from Dunlop, which allow for cornering at the dangerous Nürburgring track at monstrous speeds. The cost of this record-breaking car exceeds $200,000. But the most surprising thing is not the price, but the fact that such a GTR is currently impossible to purchase. The N-Attack Racing package is installed only on right-hand drive GTRs exclusively in Japan at the Nismo headquarters, and is not available for delivery to other countries. Even for regular GTR Nismos in Japan, there is a 6-month waiting list, and obtaining the unique N-Attack package for personal use is almost impossible. Of course, the GTR has a few drawbacks that I must mention for the sake of an objective review. Firstly, the robotic transmission should be treated with care after 2 consecutive launch control starts. Even in the latest GTR models, this issue persists. Many owners simply reinforce the transmission, which in most cases solves the problem. On earlier models, excessive use of launch control could void the warranty. It is strongly advised not to drift with the GTR. The all-wheel drive clutch does not favor this. Additionally, the manufacturer, under threat of voiding the warranty, prohibits disabling the stability control system. And the last drawback, as considered by competitors, is the GTR's weight. At 1750 kilograms, it is slightly heavier than competing supercars. However, all these shortcomings are addressable when it comes to tuning. As you know, the GTR's engine can easily be tuned beyond the factory specifications. Nissan has left this exciting task to tuners, prioritizing the reliability of their supercar. The tuning potential of the GTR is not just good, it is excellent. While in the past, only the most daring tuners could push the car's power beyond 1,000 horsepower, today, it is quite common to see a GTR on the road with 800 horsepower under the hood. True monsters are now approaching the 2,000 horsepower mark. On your screens now is a table that roughly shows how much money is needed to achieve a certain power level. The price is not small, but for those who have gasoline flowing through their veins instead of blood, it's worth it. Here's a concrete example. The guys from the well-known tuning shop AMS Performance created one of the most powerful GTRs in the world, which could be driven on public roads without restrictions. Their project was named the Nissan GTR Alpha 12 Plus. There was absolutely nothing left of the standard parts in the engine. Even the block was bored out from 3.8 to 4 liters. The engine received a new cylinder head, pistons, connecting rods, an upgraded fuel system, a new exhaust system, intake system, and a reinforced transmission. The tuners changed the software and installed massive turbochargers with a boost pressure of 2.4 bar. The result, on regular gasoline, the engine produced 1,100 horsepower, and on racing fuel, it produced 1,500 horsepower. Acceleration to 100 km per hour took an unbelievable 2.4 seconds. The top speed reached 375 km per hour. Recently, Nissan announced that the development of the next generation GTR is in full swing. It is currently known that the future GTR will be a hybrid. The engine will remain the same, but will be complemented by electric motors, meaning the car will be even more powerful and faster. The technology division of the Williams Formula One team will assist in developing the hybrid system, which is a very serious collaboration. The creators claim that the production car will have much in common with actual racing cars and hint at the use of technologies developed for Nissan's new LMP1 class Le Mans prototype. So, folks, we are in for an even more exciting war between supercars on the racing tracks. Every new upgrade of the GTR has always spelled bad news for its competitors. It's no wonder many call it the supercar killer. I'm sure the GTR will continue to surprise us many more times. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and click the like button.